Good morning, CLC. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your presence and well-being. In this moment and at this time, I invite each and every one of you to travel in your mind's eye with me beyond the beyond, into that sacred space that is the I am. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and take a nice deep cleansing breath in, breathing in love and light. And as you release the breath, release all that no longer serves you. Allow any doubts or tension or stress or anxiety to just wash away for now. Go ahead and take another nice, deep, cleansing breath in. And as you release the breath, allow your body to just relax in this moment. And allow your mind to be here, now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal spirit inspires me. Universal wisdom enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself up to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own, for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one very special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me. I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This could be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in this room or even on this planet anymore. I turn to that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in this room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I am grateful for the good in your lives.
So, good morning. Welcome to Creative Life on this Sunday morning. Those of you here in the room, those of you watching at a distance, my name is Jennings. I work here. Except I was off last week, and Reverend David Dewhurst brought down the house with his talk. Give him a hand, would you? Yeah. Yeah, henotheism, huh? Yeah, went down that rabbit hole all week. So you'd be amazed, or maybe you wouldn't be, but the number of people who watch and pay attention to the stuff we say and comment on it in other forums and things during the week, it's quite impressive. And you gave all of us a lot to think about with your wonderful talk. So you can watch this. You know, it used to be these things just went away. Then we bought a cassette deck. This is a long time ago. Anyhow, now, Facebook, YouTube, he lives forever. These talks are out there forever. So if you want to catch up on it, it's easy to do. And there'll be links in the morning chat today of how to find that. So what we're doing this month is it's on mystery and mastery. And the kind of obscure point I've been trying to make is that in metaphysics, which is what this is. This is a metaphysical teaching. This place is called Religious Science or Science of Mind, and it's part of the larger New Thought family, Religious Science, Unity, Divine Science, a number of independent teachings, so on. And the basic contention in all of this is that there is a dualism in nature, but not a fixed duality. In other words, they're not two powers working in opposition to each other, and working in opposition to each other on the top of your head, on the back of your neck. They're not two forces like, you remember the good Goofy and bad Goofy in the cartoons where one sat on one shoulder whispering good advice and the other sat on the shoulder whispering not good advice, and that kind of duality where there's good and evil pulling at us constantly, God and the devil. That's not part of this teaching. If you want to believe that, you're welcome to. That's not my place to say. But I will offer you an alternative. And the alternative is that there's a dualism in nature. There's a dualism in our nature. We have good days and bad days. We have wins and losses. We have mixed energy all the time. But this mixed energy is reconcilable back into a unity. That's what distinguishes a dualism from a duality, is that a dualism can be reconciled back into a oneness, back into a wholeness. So we are, for example, as we talked about 2 weeks ago, both mysteriously magical and miraculous beings, and life is both magical and miraculous, and the distinction between those two is that something that is miraculous meets a preconceived expectation. You need something, you ask for it, it's a long shot, and it's delivered. Therefore, it's a miracle. You see, feeding a multitude of hungry people where there appears to be no food is a famous example of a miracle. Well, there was a need there. There were people and they were hungry, right? And it was lunchtime, so something had to happen. Something that's magical, though, tends not so much to conform to a preconceived expectation or set of needs. It comes out of left field, comes out of nowhere. And suddenly, you didn't think you needed something, but it shows up anyway. You have a blinding flash of insight or intuition and greater grasp of yourself and the meaning of life and your place in it. So we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. We talked about the basic wonderful irony of being material beings having spiritual experiences, or wait, no, we're spiritual beings having material experiences. We live in a physical world. We are spiritual beings, and the distinction between our spirituality and our physicality is more a trick of the light than anything else. In other words, it's which part of this are we paying attention to today? Now, what typically happens is in the Western world, much of the world gathers at this hour on this particular day of the week for the purposes of engaging in spirituality. They leave stuff behind. They gather in places that look more like this than they don't. And they pray together, and they sing together, and they hear some encouraging words together, and then tomorrow morning begins their real life. The real activity of life, which is making a living, paying bills, doing this kind of thing, taking care of your family. There's a dichotomy, really, that's set up between spiritual practice and material expression. A dichotomy that we seek to heal in this teaching by saying that what we do here, you can use there. What we do in this room, you can use outside this room. You can use it wherever you go. And you will encounter other beings who are using it as well. Here's another monkey wrench thrown into the thing, is that what we're learning to do here, we've always been doing. Most of this stuff that I've learned in my life and you've learned in yours, you didn't do before you learned it, right? You learned to speak another language. You didn't speak that language until, well, you started speaking it, and then maybe you got fluent at it, and now you do. But the science of mind is not like that. We've been using certain spiritual principles the whole time. So has our species the whole time, obliviously to their existence. We do what we do, and then we learn, oh, now I see. Now what often happens is that we have identified a pattern along the way. We're not stupid, so we notice that when I do this, that happens. When I do this, that happens. When I do this and it's a rainy Tuesday, that happens. When I do this standing on my head, that happens. Therefore, do this enough and have that happen enough, and you can call it a law. You can call it a principle by which things occur regularly and repeatedly. Then I learned that if I tweak a little bit what I'm doing over here, the outcome is a little bit different over there. And I realize now I can work with this law. I can adapt myself to this law, to this principle, to this power. We learn about laws that we've been using the whole time. Our species has learned about laws that we've been using the whole time that aren't necessarily overtly spiritual laws. One that comes to mind very often, and I think I brought this up a couple of weeks ago, and it's a real frequent visitor in metaphysical teaching, is the idea of electricity. The fact that ever since whenever our ancestors saw lightning in the night sky and said, wow, that's something. I wonder if maybe one day we could do something with that. And they told stories about it, and they mythologized it, and they gave it names and all the rest, you know. And it wasn't until really, really recently in the human escapade that electricity was what they call harnessed. and it was used for the purposes of amplification. I often wonder, because I speak a lot, I wonder, like, oh, this is terribly irreligious, but you remember Monty Python? Okay. Remember The Life of Brian? Hugely controversial movie. I mean, they picketed the theaters, and it was something else. The Sermon on the Mount scene, did he say cheesemakers? You with me on this? You have no idea what I'm talking about. Blessed are the peacemakers, right? And they're standing at the back of the crowd. Did he say cheesemakers? You know why? He didn't have a microphone. None of these people who gave these great declamations, through history had microphones. And so past about 35 feet out, you couldn't make out what they were saying. Makes you wonder, the great speeches of history that are gathered, like how much of this is really accurate unless they wrote it out beforehand. Nobody really knows. Well, look at all that became possible. But there was this power that was there the whole time, and then somebody happened onto it, and then now it's such a comfortable and ordinary thing to us. We use it all the time. Wouldn't it be nice if spiritual power were just that, we were just that fluent in it. We were just that easily moved into prayer and meditation and visioning and contemplation, all these different tools that we have, visualization, to just use these things that easily. So that's kind of the thing I want to get to today. And I'm referencing obliquely without a deep dive, because he got one a while back, this Emmett Fox. And in his book, Find and Use Your Inner Power. Find and use your inner power. 2 verbs, 2 actions. Find and use. I want to propose to you that the finding is more fun than the using. Actually, the seeking is really where it's at. The seeking and finding, the attempting to find. When you find a thing, then you've found it, and then it's a thing, and then it has a presence in your life that you are interpreting through your own subjective field. And it takes a little bit of effort for that thing to be different to you than your initial subjective impression of it. Does that make sense? We have all these preformed opinions and stuff, and life tends to conform itself to those preformed opinions. And it can't get much beyond that until we give it permission to do so. You and I are on a spiritual quest that will never, ever end. We do not come to this place and study this material for the purpose of having it all figured out, so that we can close the book on it and say, well, we're done, and now that's handled, like another chore would be. No, it's a perpetual chore, and it's not strictly a repetitive chore like, say, the laundry, where as satisfied as you might feel at the end of having done your laundry and folding it all up and putting it away, you know that in another few days or week or however often you do laundry, it's going to be right back to the same thing. And you never really win at laundry, do you? I mean, it never really, you change detergents, you tweak a few things, but it's never really over. You never really win at cooking. No matter what a great meal you make, somebody's going to eat it, and then it's done, and then they're going to get hungry again, and on and on and on. We're filled with all of these different experiences and processes in life. Well, spirituality is sort of similar in the sense that it's never over, but it's also non-repetitive in form to the extent that it's always surprising and it's always different, and we discover more. And you bring questions. You bring questions to the great altar in your mind and heart, and you get responses more than you get answers. You get responses more than you get answers. What's the difference between a response and an answer? An answer closes the conversation. Is it cool enough in this room for you today? Yes? Good. Then we don't have to ask that again, do we? It's handled. What would you like to order off the menu? Got your order? Off we go to the kitchen. It's taken care of. But a response. Is it cool enough for you in this room this morning? What is cool? What is this room? What does it all mean? That's a response. That's a response. And the response keeps the conversation going. I read a fascinating book one time, and then I went back to it time and time again, but the first time I read it, it just completely blew my mind, and I bring it up to you now and then and it gets put in the chat, called Finite and Infinite Games by James Carse, C-A-R-S-E. They're looking it up for you now. He says that life is a game, and the purpose of the game is not to win. He says life is a game, but the purpose of the game is to continue the game, to expand the game. I throw the ball to you, you catch the ball, you throw it to somebody else, they catch it, and the idea of the game is to keep throwing the ball around where nobody drops it, and if they drop it, the game's not over. You just recommit to the game. And you pick the ball up and you throw it around some more, and isn't it great? And as you go, presumably, you learn more about throwing and catching than you ever thought was possible. You learn your own skill set. You perfect your own skill set. You deliver the goods in life. So it is that as we process life, we learn that what we get back is experience. You pray for something, and almost all the time, forgive me if I'm getting loud, but I get excited about this point, because I get excited for myself about this point. I sit around in an empty room with this point, and I get excited about it, is that line in the Bible, if you ask him for bread, will he give you a stone? And the idea there is that God is dependable and will, of course, deliver and not withhold. But there's a nuance to it that's not often explored, and that is that if you ask him for bread, he won't give you bread either. He'll give you a recipe. He'll point you to where the ingredients are. See? And so I know I've brought this up to you before, but I have to keep revisiting this point, because I have to keep remembering that, and that's why I visit this stuff on you, is I have to remember it, For me, is that when I think what I want is a tangible answer, an outcome that closes the conversation, what I'm really after, and that will feed my soul, and also what I get is a process. I get a set of experiences. I was telling somebody the other day, as I know I've shared with you before, one of the first things when I learned about this teaching, he said, figure out a state of mind that you want to occupy and pray about that. And so I decided patience was good. I wanted to pray for patience. You want to be very careful when you pray for patience, because like with anything, you get a process, and when you pray for patience, what you get is you get to wait. You're not just rendered instantly patient by the cosmic forces. No, you get a process that you get to grow through. And I know that I've brought this up about the musicians before countless times. You want to play the guitar, you got to grow calluses. There's a process involved. There's a process involved. So I suggest, and this whole mystery thing was prompted largely by being October, fall, cooler weather. Soon, they say, but on paper it looked good when I came up with it, right? So, it's the wind turns. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. The wind turns, and this happens in a lot of literature where Mary Poppins comes in or something because the wind has changed, and there's a feeling of something, a disruption in the force, a disruption, a different vibe or something like that. So in this mystery, let's plumb the mystery. And in the mystery is the power to imagine something greater than our preconceived expectations of this. In the mystery is the seeking. Well, then there's the finding. Seek and use your inner power. That presumes a finding. Seek and use your inner power. When you use your inner power, try to use it more about feelings than about forms. Here's the thing. Feelings last, forms don't. Forms not only don't last as forms, because as soon as, this is physics, but as soon as something takes form, it begins to decay. It begins to disintegrate, right? As soon as a chair is built or a floor or a music stand or anything else, it starts an atomic decay that's very slow. The thing's not going to collapse, in our field of vision, but it over time will. all things are heading back to a state of entropy. All things are heading back to a state of pure potential. They're not lost, they're just not informed anymore. So that nice shiny new car, a friend of mine has a new Corvette. Man, those things are weird looking from what I remember a Corvette being. I mean, it's about this far off the ground. And my friend is not really young, but he's spry enough to climb into this thing and go 180 miles an hour down the freeway, you know. Well, as excited as he is about that, and you might be, and I might be at our latest gizmo, you know, that we've gotten, it's on its way out the moment it takes form. But the feeling behind it is something that we can both manage and manage to enjoy and manage to savor and manage to transfer off of experience to experience and form to form. The feeling of fulfillment, the feeling of satisfaction. What gives you the feeling of satisfaction? Is it other people's approval? That's where we typically get it. Is this a job well done? Somebody will tell you if it is or it isn't, and then we take it from them. But how would it be if we generated our own confidence in what we do so completely that we just knew and knew that we knew? And that's called performance art, and that's called living really on the edge of creativity, is that you just put it out there. And if you look at the history of literature, music, art, all of these different forms of expression, they're filled with people who did something that at first was ridiculed. You have no talent. Oh my God, that's awful. That is just awful. And then you know what they get? They get what's called a cult following. Right? 5, 10, 20 years, they get a cult. Now all of us say, you know, that wasn't bad. And the next thing you know, they're in the Hall of Fame. The next thing you know, they're legends, and they're this, you know, doing what they did. Because the culture has caught up. Well, genius is always on the edge, on the leading edge of the culture. It's always in the vanguard. Here's the thing. The genius is not confined to a small group of intensely creative people who live somewhere else. It's in each of us. We are our own spiritual genius. We are our own practical and expressive genius. What is a spiritual genius? You picture somebody sitting on a mountaintop having this incredibly intense meditation, but a spiritual genius is the mathematician or the artist or the business person or what have you that's making a difference in the world through themselves. And we are all that. So it's time I got to a few bullet points here to close this thing out and see if okay, so the quest is in the final finding. The quest is eternal. The field of inquiry is infinite. Every answer opens out into more questions. The big picture is in all the little pictures. What I mean by that is the big picture of, like, what is the meaning of life? Look close at what's at hand for some good information on that. Rather than the heavens opening up and the big voice of, you know, out of the sky telling you how it all is and then returning, you know, back up into the cosmos. Instead, look at what's at hand. Look at what's at hand. Do you love humankind? Do you love your own family? Do you love your neighbors? Are you taking good care of them? Where does unconditional love live? It lives in your dog, for one, right? It lives in all of the things that you've surrounded yourself with, that you give your heart to. That's unconditional love. That's the love of God right there. Brings to mind that amazing woman. What was her name? They'll find her. God's love we deliver. You know who I mean. Yeah. When the AIDS epidemic hit New York City, this woman, she passed recently. Last year, I think. She said somebody has to do something. She went around, she brought groceries to these young men with AIDS who were symptomatic, who were in sarcoma, who were moving into dementia, who were going through the full range of symptoms. She brought them groceries. And in they made a film of some of this several different ways. And in one of the picturings, this man takes a box of cake mix, throws it on the floor. in frustration. He says, I can't use this. I can't stand up. I can't stand up. She realized they don't need groceries. They need prepared meals. She went around to all the restaurants of the city. Said, what can you do? What can you do here? And she created by herself. They'll get her name for you because you need to. Ganga Stone, yes. And Ganga Stone's the one I was thinking of. Yes, and Jane Best. Yeah. She started this, well, the two of them started this whole thing, and it took off, and it exists to this day, and it's in other cities now and all like that, you know. Man, that's genius. You know, and here's the other part of that. She listened. This is so key. This is so key. You want to heal the problems of the world? Ask people what they need. Instead of all of this top-down stuff of, well, our think tank met and we've decided that blah, blah, blah. This is how they're solving the issue of being unhoused in Houston and Harris County, is talking to unhoused people saying, what can we do for you? What do you need? What do you need? And you ask this and something powerful happens. Our reach exceeds our grasp, and there is no stopping. Emmett Fox, in that book, Find and Use Your Inner Power, makes the point. He says, when you start a spiritual practice, do not stop it. Do not forget. Keep going. Keep going even when it seems like nothing is happening. It's like gardening in that respect. You don't plant something and instantly you have the thing come to fruition. There's a process involved, and a lot of it is invisible. So work through it that way. In the using of spiritual law, we often go for what we're not prepared for, says, again, this is from Fox. Isn't that true? We often go for what, so what do you get? Well, one of two things happens. You become prepared for it, or you get something else. How it doesn't work is like this. How it doesn't work is like if you're in the grocery store and you're in the checkout line and you don't have enough money for what's there. They don't tell you, well, then you can't have any groceries at all, right? They say, well, you've got this much in groceries and you got that much in cash, and so you got to figure out the difference and pull something out and put it back. That's how the universe works with us. If you claim something in prayer that you're not willing to accept, it isn't like this whole gate slams down over the whole process. You get a piece of it. You get an aspect of it. You get a hologram of it. You get a tiny little corner of it, you know, that then expands into the whole thing. As you increase in your willingness, as you increase in your acceptance. Heat doesn't equal light. Motion doesn't equal progress. These are different things. Just the passion of being involved in something, making lots of noise, jumping up and down, doesn't necessarily move things along. There has to be intention, there has to be direction. And finally, remember that we are spiritual beings, and let that be our context. What we're looking for so often is a context for life. Would you like to feel that life has meaning and all like that? Guess who gets to do that? You do. Jesus Christ can't come in and give your life meaning. Jesus Christ can do a lot for you. Every spiritual teaching, every spiritual guru and messiah that's ever lived can do an awful lot for you. These are wise people. They're well worth reading, well worth listening to. But they can't carry you over the goal line. You got to do that yourself. Coming into your own spiritual faculties, coming into your own, well, sense of self in a healthy kind of way. And as is often pointed out, self with a capital S. Not just the self of you that's the ego and the needs being met and all that, but the higher self of you that is one with spirit, that is the experience. Let's say this together. I love this, and you hear it from me all the time, but I've not heard it from you. So let's say it together now, okay? I am the experience, that spirit is having, in this world, at this time, by means of me. One more time. I am the experience. The Spirit is having. In this world. At this time. By means of me. And so it is.
if you've not signed up for our newsletter, as I said, you can do it by sending an email to info@creativelife.org. But also, you can do it if you're in the room here. You can, as you exit to the left, there is a book there. Please, if you're new especially, please put in your name and your address. You'll get our weekly email. I promise you, you won't get spammed. It doesn't go anywhere else. It's through constant contact. So that it's not going to anybody else except you. So as our usher gets ready, please just remember that we have a lot to offer the world, each of us individually. And when we come here collectively as a community, we have more. You've heard the expression that 1 plus God is a majority. Reverend Jesse said the other day that a community plus God is a supermajority. So please help us get our message out into the world. So thank you for your contributions. And now if you're ready, either physically in your hand or mentally in your mind, hold up your gift and say with me, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
Lisa's already shocking lots of things, so we don't want that stand anywhere near her.
We didn't get the moisture that we were expecting. It's dry, so I'm really conductive right now, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Okay. All right, so to answer your question, Samhain. There are 8 seasonal festivals throughout the year. And this is our way of kind of keeping in touch with the cycle of nature. Because in the urban environment, we can kind of lose track of what season it is, what phase of the moon it is, and we are still connected to that. And so this is our way of reconnecting. Samhain is the third and the major harvest festival. Lunasa is the first one, Mabon's the second one. Samhain is the last one because it is when your harvest should be finished. Everything's got to be in. Now, if we lived further north, that would be more important. Down here, not so much. We still have some harvesting time going on. But it is also about, one, it's a big community party because you got to eat what you cannot store. And it's about getting ready for the winter, preparing for the winter. So, and what we have been doing is provided it's not blistering hot, we go out into the courtyard so that we're outside. We have a kind of a welcome get-together community maybe thing, if I remember the essential oils. I don't always, but we talk about what it is that we are there for and kind of tilt it a little science of mind. And then we have the meditation, and then we have snacks. So, but the Friday Night Philosophy group found out about it, and they were like, wait, can you? And we were like, yeah, we can figure that out. So we're going to open it up to them. They won't get the snacks, but, we can always send them recipes. They have to bring their own snacks. So that is what Samhain is, and there are 8 of them, and they come about every 6 weeks. So after Samhain, it'll be Yule, which is the shortest, it is the shortest day of the year. The equinox, or not the equinox, solstice. The equinox are the equal days, and the solstice are the shortest and longest days. So, and they all have great names and lots of history, and it's just a way to kind of connect with our ancestors. All right, which I was not planning to do a commercial, but here we are. Okay, I was thinking about something before y'all got me off onto Samhain. I think it was Thursday, Ace Frehley died. And when I heard about it, my immediate thought was, well, the world is a little less weird. And everybody's looking at me like, who in the heck is Ace Frehley? Some of y'all know. He was Spaceman, the guitarist for Kiss. Yeah. And that's exactly what I thought is, the world is a little less weird. And so here's what I'm going to invite you to know. He's just graduated into his next incarnation. And we have the power to keep this world just as weird as we would like it to be. And when I say weird, I'm using the ancient druidic weird. W-Y, don't ask me to spell, R-D-E. Otherworldly, reaching beyond into and bringing that back into the material form. October is a great time for us to be weird. I'm weird all the time and proud of it. I would tell you I can't help it, but I can. I just choose not to. So I encourage you to weird it out, to bring that otherworldly into this world. Because when we do that, we encourage the magic. Weird is where the magic is. So know with me that there is one power, one presence, one life, one love. And that each and every one of us live that life. We are channels for that power. We are vessels for that love. And when we remember who we are, amazing things happen. So as we walk through this week, I am knowing that the magic flows, that it reaches out and wraps around each and every one of us, and it flows through us out into the world, stirring that disruption up, that disruptive energy that shakes us out of the everyday and invites us to see the world as more, to see each other as more, to allow that energy to spark and create something new and unexpected and treasured, because it reminds us that we are here for a short time, but we are here forever. And that we get to grasp that magic and ride it. And I'm going to relax into that knowing, into that feeling, little pinprickles under the skin that says something weird is about to happen. And it's going to be amazing. And I'm grateful to be able to see that magic. I'm grateful to be able to feel that magic. And I'm grateful for a community that is openly coming together to practice that magic. And I'm grateful for a teaching that reminds me who I am. And a community that comes together to remind each other who we are. I'm grateful for our practitioners, our ministers, our musicians. I am grateful for each and every one of you. I am grateful for the technology that allows us to throw this out into the ethers. And I'm grateful because it's just another word for love. And love, in the end, is all there is. And I relax into this knowing, releasing my word into that law that always says yes and more. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body. I feel it in my mind. I feel it in everything I am. I choose it. I trust it. I use it. And I love it. So it is.
And so it is.